According to the American Psychological Association, almost 50% of new marriages end in divorce. Now, that's an insane statistic when you consider how few couples actually make it to marriage in the first place. Studies show that 70% of new relationships end within the first 3 to 5 months. And if you're actively dating right now, you know how difficult it can be to even get a second date sometimes. And yet none of these people went into their relationship or their marriage wanting it to end. And so the question becomes, what is happening for millions of people that once found love, but were not able to hold on to it? Being in a marriage that's lasted more than 5 years now, my wife and I have succeeded where 50% of couples fail. And I think one of the things that have really supported us is not just the fact that we've stuck it out and worked together through hard times. And yes, we have worked our asses off in our relationship over the years. But I think it's not only that, it's how we started our relationship. It's the foundation that we began on and the commitments we made in the beginning that allowed us to have something that set us up for success long term. And so in this video, I'm going to share with you what needs to happen before a relationship and in the very beginning of a relationship to create a foundation that will lead to lasting love long term. Before we get started, please subscribe to the channel and hit that bell so you get notified about new videos as soon as they're released. Also, if you'd leave a comment, let me know how this video landed for you. If something stood out or was particularly helpful, I would love to hear about it. Thanks so much for being with me today. Sending love wherever you are, and let's go ahead and dive in. Now, the biggest mistake I see people making here is that we actually get into relationships and get married for the wrong reasons to begin with. And people get married for all kinds of reasons, but very rarely is it actually a good reason. We get married because we're lonely and we want someone to come and heal our loneliness. We get married because we feel like we're on a clock and we're running out of time and we need to get it moving. We get married because it's a cultural norm. We get married because of pressure of family and friends and all different kinds of reasons, but none of these reasons are actually good reasons to get married. And so what happens is we meet someone and we feel this rush of excitement and we want to ride that rush of excitement rather than critically assessing if this is what I truly want, if this is the relationship I truly want, if this is the person that I truly want to share my life with. We want to keep that feeling of excitement going. And one of the best ways to keep that feeling of excitement going is to move into deeper levels of commitment together. So we move in together and that's exciting. And then we get engaged and that's exciting. And then we get married and that's exciting. And then we have a kid and that's exciting. And before you know it, 5 or 10 years go by. But then we look back at the decisions we've made and the commitments we've made with this person. And it hasn't really made us happy because it wasn't really what we wanted anyway. And this is why so many relationships fail. We get into it for the wrong reason. We try to keep this wave of excitement going. Ultimately, we feel defeated and let down and deflated and like it was all a lie when it doesn't turn out to be everything we wanted. But truly, we weren't doing the work on the front end. Truly, we weren't being honest about it on the front end. In some way, we were running from ourselves the whole time, and eventually it caught up to us. So when you choose a relationship, it's so important to first take the time to get to know yourself and really get clear about what you deeply desire from life and from love. And then when you choose to spend your life with someone and you choose to make that commitment with someone, choose it because it's in alignment with that. That is the only good reason to choose a relationship. Now, this next point is going to follow very naturally from the previous one. But what happens is we choose the relationship for the wrong reasons, and we actually don't choose our partner for who they are. You see, most of us aren't looking for a whole, complete human being with their own feelings and their own desires and their own dysfunctions and their own problems and their own ways of doing things, their own ways of thinking about things, and their own wants that are different from ours. Most of us are not looking for that. Most of us have a certain fantasy about what love is going to be like, what our partner is going to be like, about what our life is going to be like together. And all we're looking for is someone who will fit into that fantasy. And so when we're getting to know someone, we're usually not critically asking ourselves if this is the person we really want to be with. But what we're doing is we're trying to look for all the things that fit into the fantasy and block out anything that doesn't. And this is usually pretty easy to do in the very beginning of a relationship because usually in the beginning, you want to make each other happy and you're willing to play into each other's fantasies. But as time goes on, the reality of the person is going to become more and more present. They're going to start doing and saying things that you don't like, and you're not going to be able to ignore it. You're going to have differences of opinion that are not that easy to just get through. And you're going to have to make certain compromises, and you're going to have difficult discussions in the relationship. And a lot of people, when it gets to the point where I can no longer keep pretending that you're my fantasy, and the reality of you becomes so big that it interrupts my fantasy and I can't ignore it anymore. A lot of people say, "You're not who I thought you were. You've changed. How could I not see this before?" But the truth is, that was always there. But you ignored it until it got to a point where you couldn't ignore it anymore. And so when you're getting to know someone, it's so important, in the same way that I said in the first point, to get to know yourself. It's so important to get to know the other person. And not to just get to know the parts of them that you like. Get to know all of them. How do they handle pressure? How are they on a bad day? What are the parts of them that you don't like so much and that you don't vibe with so much? What are the parts of them that maybe scare you or cause you to have some fear or anxiety around the relationship? Really face up to all of this. Discuss these things with each other rather than just getting caught up in, I need to be with this person and I need to keep them in my life. Open up to the fact that you may not want to keep them. Be present to that throughout the relationship and honestly consider if you can accept all of this person, the good, the bad, and everything in between, the things you like, the things you don't like, the things that fit in with your fantasy, and the things that don't. Honestly, ask yourself, if this person was not going to change, if you weren't expecting them to outgrow these things, if you weren't expecting to somehow get rid of all the things you don't like about them, if you were expecting them to be the way they are, and you were going to accept that and allow that in your life forever, would that be okay with you? And I know people always say, well, if I'm that picky, I'm never going to find someone. But I'll tell you this, you will lose a lot more time hanging on to the wrong people than you will by getting clear that they're not the person you want to be with and moving on more quickly to somebody who could be right. Now, this last point is probably going to be the most important point I'm going to cover in this video, because this is really going to be the one that makes or breaks any new relationship. And the point is that we avoid the challenging and difficult conversations with each other. We want to keep things light. We want to keep things happy. We want to keep things feeling good. We want to hold on to the relationship. And so we brush all the difficult stuff under the rug and wait again until it's so big that we can't ignore it anymore. But often this isn't until way down the road. And so something you want to do in the beginning of a relationship is create an open space to talk about anything. A lot of times when we first become exclusive with someone, or we first decide that we're like boyfriend, girlfriend, there becomes this energy in the relationship like we can't talk about leaving, or we can't talk about not wanting it. It's like, are you saying you don't want this anymore? And it's like, yes, sometimes people are saying that. And if you can't have those kinds of conversations, you are setting your relationship up to fail. Now, I know this might sound radical for a lot of people, but in the early stages of dating, in a mature adult relationship, it is healthy and it is actually the best way to do it, to have an environment where you can both talk about what you want and how this relationship is lining up with it or not. Where you can both come to each other and say, you know, I'm really looking for this, and I'm really looking for this, and I'm really looking for this. And I feel like in this relationship, these things are not being met. And I want to know if we can work on that, or I want to know if that's something that we can't work on, and maybe this is not a fit for us. And these were the kinds of conversations that my wife and I had many times in even the first 3 months of our relationship. She came to me many times telling me that she did not think she could do this relationship, or she didn't think it was going to work for her, or there were concerns or there were fears that she was having. To which I would often respond by saying, listen, if that's really true for you, then you need to do what's right for you, and I respect that if you don't want this. But for me, I do want this, and I'm going to keep working on it. And us having that conversation built trust. She learned to trust me because of how I responded to her in those situations. But if we had not had those conversations, that trust would have never been built. We talked about things like where we were going to live because we were long distance. So it's like, okay, if we stay together, are you going to move here or am I going to move there? Right? We talked about changes we would make to our work situation. We talked about if we wanted to have a family and children and what that would look like. We talked about how we would want to raise children and what that would be like. We talked about religion and spirituality and politics. I mean, we talked about everything you can imagine. And what we were really doing was we were exploring each other and finding out if we had enough of a common value system that we could actually have a foundation that we could relate on long term. Doing that in the beginning while giving each other the permission to say, hey, if this is not right for you and you feel that this is not what you want, feel free to leave and I will not hold it against you. And giving each other the freedom to get to know each other within that kind of context developed a trust and developed a reliability between us and an openness between us that when we chose to get married, we knew the commitment we were making and we wanted to sincerely make that commitment to each other. Now, really, I've spoken about 3 things in this video. Number 1, taking the time to be honest and clear about what you truly want in life and in love. Number 2, having the courage to get to know someone truly without avoiding or disregarding any aspects of their personality. And number 3, having the confidence and freedom to speak openly in a relationship and the willingness to let go of something that is not right for you. The truth is that in these 3 domains, most people in the world are severely lacking. And the reason for that is that we've never been taught. Chances are your parents did not have an amazing relationship. And even if they did, even if you were one of the lucky ones, when was the last time they sat down and really broke it down for you how they did that? We have not been taught healthy relational skills. We've been encouraged to do many, many things to the opposite. And there are so many influences in our culture that are constantly pushing us to do the things that don't work. But almost nobody has really learned and integrated what does work. So you have a choice right now. You have the option to keep moving forward, doing it the way you've been doing it, keep pushing it and hope something changes for you. Or you have the opportunity to pause and take a look at yourself and really learn some new ways of relating and showing up to relationships so when the right person arrives, you don't miss your shot with them. If you're ready to take on this work in a real and serious way, my Inspired Love program is now open for enrollment. This is a 12-week program where you can heal the pain of the past and open up to a future filled with love. This is about integrating in the 4 dimensions of human experience: body, mind, emotion, and spirit, and bringing your entire being into such alignment with love and such a powerful authenticity that you call the same forth from other people. And that is how you meet your match. So if you're interested, you can find the link below. You can learn some details about the program. You can read some testimonials from past students. And when you're ready, you can apply. If you have any questions about the program, feel free to email me at shaneandfatima@thelivingrelationship.com. And I'll be happy to answer any of your questions there. Thanks so much for being with me today. Sending you lots of love. Please subscribe to the channel, hit that bell, drop a comment, and share this video with someone who needs to see it. I always appreciate you watching. Thank you so much, and I'll see you back here in my next video. Many blessings.